those words. So it's a great pleasure to be here, and as he said, we are very happy to co-sponsor today's event. We have a very active program of book presentations. There are a few flyers outside here, and out of those 60 or so events, I think we do half of them. I'm exaggerating, but we do a lot of events, and it's a pleasure to bring the best work on Cuban and Cuban American authors here to Miami. So very pleased to introduce tonight's guest speaker, Professor Eduardo del Valle, who is a colleague at Florida International University. He teaches art and photography there, has been doing so for many years, since 1983. He holds a Master of Fine Arts from the Brooklyn College of the City University of New York and a BA in a Bachelor of Fine Arts from FIU as well. He has received numerous artist fellowships, including the John Simon Guggenheim Memorial Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Cintas Foundations, actually a couple of times. His work is widely shown internationally and is now in the permanent collection of several museums, including the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the New Orleans Museum of Art, the Brooklyn Museum of Art, the California Museum of Photography, and the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. His work was included in the traveling exhibition, Cuba, USA, the first generation. Together with his wife, Mirta Gomez, Professor del Valle is a co-author of several monographs, including On View, published 2012, Between Runs, 2007, and Fried Waters, 2005. So tonight we're very pleased to introduce Childhood Memories from the Other Side of the Water. Please help me welcome Professor del Valle.
Thank you. No need for applause, please. Thank you, Cuban Research Institute. Is that the right name? Yeah. Books on Books, Mitch. I'm really bad at names, so I'm thanking everybody that I know. And so if you're here, hi. If you're here, thank you. This has been a very long process for me. This book took me 9 years to make. It was a very dark side of my life, and that's the reason for the making of this book. First, I'll talk a little bit about the dark side of my life, and then I'll show you the book, and we'll go through some pictures, and if you have some questions, I'll be happy to address them. So these are really snippets of thoughts. They weren't really put chronologically, but they're just ideas as they came to me as I was producing this body of work. I would like to explain how the making of this book has changed me. It has been a very powerful experience. Literally, the unraveling of my past, my present, and my life. For me, the risk of losing oneself is far more dangerous than the risk of losing a spouse, a parent, a sibling, and even your own best friend. Now, I am fueled by the freedom that comes from honesty. I am through pretending that everything was okay when it really was not. I am now resilient to the shame that I felt daily as a child. It was a feeling of emptiness, frustration, resentment, disappointment, fear, and a whole lot of grief. I claim my story. I own my story. In a real powerful way, the making of this book has allowed me to assert who I am. Loving and accepting myself is my ultimate act of courage. I can now see myself as authentic and belonging in a way that is totally new to me. This work has been an unraveling experience for me. I cannot undo or unsee the past. Since my adolescence, my life has been extremely overwhelming. It has become very important for me to find my way out of that sinkhole. I am trying desperately to survive a trauma, and telling my story is a singular experience. I am speaking of my own strength because I no longer have any weaknesses. Thanks to Dr. Evelia Iglesias, if she's here. Thank you, wherever you are. You are. Thank you. Authenticity and courage is what you need to tell your own story. I do not wait for anyone to give me permission. That is the essence of my philosophy. I am worthy. No one can or will come between me and myself. This book is a declaration of knowing that there is enough and that I am enough. My work needs to be seen, and I need to be heard. With this book, I grew up, and I am very, very proud of myself. Now, now, and now, I will begin to share my story with you and the rest of the world. I was raped by my father many times. He was a child predator. And I knew I was in big trouble when I was only 8 years of age. Now, half a century later, it has become urgently important for me to escape that memory. And this work represents a 9-year pregnancy of labor. And I have delivered childhood memories from the other side of the water. It was also a wonderful preparation for the rest of my life. I have no fear of failure anymore. Success and failure to me feel pretty much the same. In the end, I really feel really good that I tried. When I began this project 9 years ago, I imagined myself in the future when I am 60 or 70 or maybe even 80 years of age. With this book, I stripped myself naked to the real me. And now I live in the present. I am able to do hard work as well as eye work, and from time to time, a little bit of brain work as well. I was able to do the most serious soul work of my life, and that meant a great unraveling for me. After 64 years of living in misery, owning my story and loving myself is the bravest work of my life. Things have changed for me. There's a fundamental shift in my life. I am not interested in conformity. I am not interested in the need for certainty. Because I believe, then I see. I no longer need to see it to believe it. Why? Because the demand for evidence will only silence my intuitive voice. And intuition is to embrace uncertainty. It has been an incredibly emotional transition for me. The world does not even look the same to me anymore. Self-acceptance is most important to me. I do not compare myself to other people. I only compare myself to me. A self-reflective autobiography is connected to age. As I approach my early 50s through my 60s, vivid memories emerge unprompted. Everyday memories emerge unprompted. As I age, memories of my childhood grow clearer and felt stronger. To chronicle my childhood means to reconstruct memories because I no longer have the same perspective I had when I was a child. My memory is still reliable. I just see events in a different light. In my old age of 64, childhood memories are clearer. Long-term memories is in storage in the brain for many years, and only in old age will it start to thaw and be released. 15 or 20 years ago, I never would have contemplated doing work about my childhood. Once those memories were awakened, their presence were so powerfully felt, it was almost as if I had no choice but to only work on my autobiography. I trust that my story will resonate with other adults that were sexually abused as children. Finally, my history deserves public notice and no more than that. I now remind myself of the time between the age of 10 and 50 years, of the separation from my past I so desperately needed to silence my memory. Nothing I tried worked. Finally, I connected with the little boy I once was, so I could be at ease with the man I am today. At this stage of my life, the present, I am extremely grateful for the damaged edition of myself, because I was able to discover and uncover my inherent individuality. My life now is my own. Folks, life unfolds through actions, not words alone. Be brave. Follow your heart. Work hard, but with passion. A passionate understanding of the subject. One that is not hard or cold or mechanical or alienating or tragic or sentimental, but a passionate understanding that is more compelling than the photograph you made yesterday. Thank you. No need for all that clapping. All right, questions. On a lighter note, some questions. Let's have fun. Yeah.
I'm sure that by doing this, you're helping a lot of people.
That's my goal. Yeah. Yeah.
So my question to you is, did you ever make peace with your father after that happened?
I made peace with myself. That was more important. Yeah. I buried him, and we never discussed it. Yeah. But I made peace with myself. Yeah. Good question. Thanks. Come on, was I all that clear? Come on, Peggy. I knew Peggy had to jump in there. Who
Pretty
else?
much answered it.
So are you seeing differently than you used to through a camera?
I'm seeing the same. I'm seeing the same. My feelings are different. I'm seeing the same.
So
Of course.
you're-
Perception never changes. Whether you're visually literate or illiterate, that never changes through this process. Yeah. No matter what your background is. But it helped me make some different kinds of pictures, which you'll see in a few minutes. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Was this the first time you shifted gears, so to say, and pointed the camera like, I mean, no, they're not like actual images of yourself, but was this like the first time you kind of centered on photographing things about yourself, and like how was that experience?
Yeah, I did. That's true. Yeah. An autobiography. It's about you.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you never like had to deal with that before. This was like the first time you.
No,
took
no.
that on?
I was dealing with things like Mayan architecture and transformation of things and all that kind of stuff.
And how was
Yeah.
that experience?
How is that?
How did that experience differ?
It differed because I needed to chew something up and spit it out. You have to understand, I was living with this thing for all my life, 64 years. Yeah. And so I needed to finally produce a body of work that was significant, that would get me out of this nightmare that I've been through. I mean, I lost a lot of things. I lost a spouse. I lost a lot of things through that process. But I needed to do this body of work. And I did. And I'm very, very happy. Yeah. All right, Ricky, I know the question you've got. I'm ready for you. Go ahead, shoot.
You said the book was in the making for the past 9 years. What was the trigger that made you start doing this book?
It just triggered the fact that I was already in my 50s, and I knew that I mean, I've been losing sleep, getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, crying every day, and living in an incredible nightmare. And I knew that I needed to do something. I went to a shrink many years ago, it didn't help. And so I thought, well, you know, I need to do, all I know how to do is make pictures and do books. I've been doing books for the last 10 years. So I thought, well, I want to do this book. I want to do this project. So I concentrated on me. Sure. Don't you think? Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. More. Come on. Go ahead. What?
Are most of the images from Cuba?
No, I've never been to Cuba.
Really? Oh, you were born here.
I was born in Cuba, but I've never been back.
Oh, no, but I mean like the when you were a child or...
None of the pictures you're going to see today are from Cuba.
Okay.
None of them. The challenge was there's too many books. You look around, look, there's books of Cuba everywhere. My God, everything, the whole thing's collapsing. Books of Cuba. So the challenge was to make a book about Cuba without visiting Cuba. So there are pictures from Egypt, from Europe, from everywhere. Yeah, yeah, without going to Cuba. That's the challenge. You'll see the pictures in a few minutes. But they look like Cuba. It's a memory. Sure. You got a question?
Yeah. Where do you intend to go from here, photographically?
Photographically, I'm glad you didn't say tonight. So I'm having a good time tonight. I'm going dancing. Photographically, I think I just acquired a very large family that's loving. And I think I want to do something with that family, because that family is going to be mine. I'm going to be a part of it. And I'm really looking forward to it. You know, doing a project about a new family. Sure. But then again, you know, intuition has to take its course. Yeah.
Is this the first time that you've confronted what happened with your father? Like when you were younger, did you never told anyone about it? Like,
No, I never did. No, I
you kept
couldn't.
it to yourself?
I couldn't. I mean, that's the nightmare. My sister's got some cards. If anybody wants to talk to me about it, please reach out to me. I'll be, I mean, a lot of people have elephants in their room and they can't. Look, I didn't discuss it with anyone until I met my current therapist, and she helped me quite a bit. But I never did. I never did. I spent all my life keeping it inside. And it's really a nightmare. So you need to spit that out. You really do. And for me, a book was an excellent source of getting it out. Wanting to make beautiful pictures, that was the goal. Number one goal is to make beautiful images. And number two is to get that nightmare out of my way. Yeah. We're moving really quickly. Are we finished? No, come on.
Let's
One
see the
more.
picture.
Pip.
Want to see the pictures?
Oh, well, I'll get there.
I don't know how to ask questions very well, but I just was really moved and about getting your authentic self, about what you said. I think you said that really clearly. And, but your authentic self is finally in these pictures, right?
Sure, yeah.
And the pictures you made before, you felt they weren't there, or is that?
Well, I was working with somebody else.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And so it was me and another individual.
Right.
So it's kind of difficult to put yourself in there. I mean, I kept trying through many years.
Okay, yeah.
And she saw me waking up every night at 4 in the morning crying. And why are you crying so much? And I couldn't just say it. I couldn't say it. To this day, I haven't told her why I cried every night. So, you know, when you're working with somebody else, it's very difficult to spit that out.
Right.
It's a difficult topic. You have to understand.
Yeah, that's
Not
why
easy.
I'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, it's tough. It really is. But getting it out is great. I have no fears of talking to you. Yeah. Sure, yeah.
I noticed reading in the other room, they have information on the pictures, which are lovely. And it says that at the age of 12, you also had another incident, or was just a misunderstanding on your way to
The age of 12? No, no. The age of 12, I was already here. My incident was from age of 8 to 10. Yeah. You see, my mother and father got a divorce. And then on weekends, my father would pick me up from school Fridays and take me to my grandmother's house. And he would rape me every Friday and Saturday night. And the room that I was sleeping in, my grandmother's house, was in Old Havana. So it had these huge, tall wooden doors, and they were open. And I remember hearing the noise of cars and Cuban people screaming and stuff like that. And so that would keep me away from the pain. It was very painful. I mean, come on, give me a break. It was painful as hell. But I didn't know any better. And then during the day, my father was a sweetheart. He would take me out flying kites. And so it was like an incredible contradiction. I didn't know any better. So then once I came to the United States at the age of 10, then I realized what was happening. You know, you were here in school, if somebody touches you in your private areas, say something. I never heard of that before in Cuba, ever. So then I go, there was something wrong with that picture. So that's slowly, it took me a few years to realize. When you're a kid, what do you know? You're 8 years old, you know nothing. So, yeah. But at the age of 12, I was here already and I was safe. I was safe. I had a stepfather. I was incredibly safe, yeah. Yeah.
Since you never actually photographed anything in Cuba, these are all memories of yours from Cuba. Was this something that did you just kind of walk around with the camera, just visually saw something that reminded you of Cuba and like photographed?
I walked around with the camera looking for anything, a good glass of wine, I mean, anything, you know? And then, something strikes a memory. I mean, aren't you ever someplace in the planet and you go, my God, that reminds me when I was a kid and I was, and then I just whack it, right? Sure. Sure. That's the way it works. Sure. It's very intuitive. You can't have the solutions before the problem. You know that. You can't. Yeah.
So long because you weren't really intentionally looking for anything, right? You were just.
I was just, keeping my eyes open. That's important. For you guys, there's a lot of students here. Keep your eyes open and your mouth shut. Right, Pip? Anybody else before we go to the slides? All right, Joe. Rock and roll. Okay, well, the first one, that's Bambi. You remember Bambi, right? Yeah. Can I take this guy with me? Okay, so that's Bambi, and Bambi was my favorite cartoon guy. Questions about the pictures? I could just move on. If you have questions about, you know how to organize things. Let's move to the next one. That's the book. That's the whole book. That's a picture of, that's me holding a picture. That's a picture of me in Varadero. That's where I was conceived, by the way. I was conceived underwater. Isn't that interesting? I was conceived underwater. So maybe that's why I'm a good swimmer, because I was conceived underwater. And that's Varadero, the black and white looking north. This is Varadero looking south from a cruise ship. We left Key West on the way to Dominican Republic, and we passed just a few miles from Varadero Beach. And so I photographed it. I made sure that we were close enough to photograph in sync the black and white and the color picture. Okay, let's go to the next one. That's just words. That's a star. Superman, of course. That was one of my favorite cartoon characters. Superman, juxtaposed to the, I don't know if the Cubans here remember the main tower that was knocked down after the Castro regime took over. And that's what that means. And, of course, where was Superman when that was knocked down? I mean, it's this kind of thing that I like to play off. Yeah. Yeah, because when I was a young kid, I could see through all that bullshit. I could see right through it. I knew that nobody could fly. Even if you're from another planet, you couldn't fly. I wasn't going to buy that. So that's why when I put things on plastics, it's because I can see through it. Sure. Next. And the swings, I was a fan. Always in school, I was always looking out the window. I'm not a good speller. I can't spell very well. And I'm always a daydreamer. Since I was a child, I would always daydream and look out windows. And so that's what I did most of the time. And when recess came, I was the first one in the swings and doing this kind of crazy things. Yeah, sure. Anyway, next. If there's any old-timer Cubans here, we're from the same generation. The Mirado pencil, that's a Mirado pencil that I shoot on it on purpose because as a kid, I remember sitting in class and chewing on the Mirado pencil, right? So that was amazing. And the blackboard was which always very hard to reach. I know it's hard to see because there's a lot of lights here. But let's go to the next one. And great. Thank you so much. The Cuban bread, there and there. I remember for breakfast having Cuban bread and then café con leche in the morning And then the fun thing was to dunk it on the café con leche, and then just kind of like, before it just dunked right into the glass, right? But there's a lot of things. I used to shave my head at one point, so that's me, that's my head. Then there's a guy, and I mean, of course, you know what happens when you eat a lot of Cuban bread, you get that belly, nine-month pregnancy. And then I would go for lunch, and I would have Cuban sandwiches as well. So it was Cuban bread all the time, so no wonder people were blowing up. If you want me to discuss forms and shapes and all that, I can do that, but I'm imagining that most of you are visually literate. Oh, piruli, remember the piruli? Remember that? That's the piruli. And the slingshot. I didn't see that bird. I said that in my last lecture. I didn't see it. You know, when I talk about intuition, I think that art is really about that. It's about locating, clarifying, intensifying the quality of your intuition. And that happens to me a lot because I kind of like, that's the way I work. You see? I'm there, I'm not there, I don't know what's going on. And then when it works, it just, wow, and it just works. It's magic. And that bird, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was so concerned with that and the church and that and the quality of light and these forms. And that bird came into the picture, and I saw that much later. I didn't know it was there. Yeah. Next.
Two photographs.
Yucatan. Those two. Yeah. Most of them are in Yucatan. Yeah, there's a few in France, in Egypt. When I get there, I'll show you. Next. The kite. The kite, I like what they used for, they used the branch. What do you call these things in English? The tops. You see how bad I am? Tops. Trompos. Trompos. I remember the trompos, I wasn't too good at it. I couldn't like lift it up with my hands, right? Pick it up with your fingers. Remember that? That was great. Great times. Next. Marbles, right? Remember that? And boy, these little cars, I had a car similar to that, a red little car. What really strikes me about this picture when I found this car was this crack. Imagine how many butts sat there to crack it. Yeah, must have been amazing. Next. And the fair. I'm from a small town. I'm from Cárdenas in Matanzas. I'm not from Havana at all. And so, we used to wait for the fair and the circus to arrive. And so getting the circus once a year was a big thrill. And it was a thrill for me. And this represents that. I mean, there's a lot of things. I'm very affected by the work of Walker Evans. My favorite photographer, for the photographers here, is Eugene Ajay. That's my favorite photographer. My second favorite is Walker Evans. And you'll see, I mean, this is Walker Evans, and this is Walker Evans as well, except this is in color, obviously. I love this monument. Monuments to the worker. It's amazing. And next. Oh, the circus. You see? Circus. And this is Cuba in the 50s. I mean, if any of us remember Cuba in the 50s, it's Cuba in the 50s. And this was photographed 5, 6, 7 years ago. Next. The circus again. I have great respect for the elephant. Most memorable animal in the world. They have great memory. I love elephants. I've ridden elephants before. I love that animal. The clown. And of course, what's happening here. I don't need to do this. You guys know what you're seeing. Next. All right, the tent from a circus, right? Next. Baseball. I'm a baseball fan, Even when the Marlins are losing, I don't care because I'm a Mets fan, right? So, but what I do is when the Mets and the Marlins are playing, I jump up for the Mets, and then I jump up for the Marlins, and I drive everybody next to me going crazy. But I love baseball. I love baseball. So that's what represents the great teams, Havana and Almendares in Cuba in the 50s. And that was a big thrill for me. And I remember once I went to see a game that they were supposed to play the Yankees, and they actually played the American All-Stars. So and the Cubans lost. They lost like 8-0 or something like that. It was crazy. And I remember crying and feeling, how unfair. The American All-Stars against Havana? You know? Why didn't we get our best players? To this day, I can't live that down. Can't believe it. How stupid. You know? Let's go next. Oh, this is my darling. This is my first girlfriend, Anita. Isn't that something? I was 4 years old, and I think she was a year older than me. So she took advantage of me. Boy, did she take advantage of me. I learned everything I know today from Anita. Not really. But anyway, and you know, a lot of things, the things with the years. Mes means a month. I didn't go to her birthday celebration. That's her birthday cake. I mean, it really isn't. It's just a memory of the cake. Okay, next. And I love looking up Anita's dress. She always wore a dress. And so I was very sexually excited, and I needed to look up her dress. We played doctors together. It was so exciting. Pinocho, I mean, and yeah, sure. Yeah, next. So I remember early on, I asked my father, this is before the rape and everything else. I asked him, why is it that women have these pointed breasts, right? In the 50s, they all wear these, they look like ships straight to go to the moon or something. They were very pointy. And I thought, gee, so I asked my father, why is it that Anita doesn't have breasts like that? And I see every woman with a breast like that. He says, don't worry, when you have hairs in your chest, you'll know. So the next day, I woke up and I started doing this to see if I had hairs in my chest. I really wanted to know. So not till much later, I didn't figure it out. I'm very slow. Next. So these are my friends from next door. They were a lot older than I was. And, I mean, this is the same, I don't know what you call that. You know, that balancing thing, a seesaw? Yeah, yeah. And this represents the dark horse that began to follow me around that age. Next. And everybody had a hippie Christ, right? I mean, if you're in Cuba, you all had a hippie Christ. More of that. Next. Those interested in location, this is Miami. Next. Oh, I was, never mind. You don't need to know the story. Next. Oh, the barber. Remember those? I mean, this is just so elegant. I love that. This is the same hand of the same guy in this picture. He's 90 years old and he's still a barber. But I mean, this really have a sense. Look at the tile floor. This is Cuba. And I've never been to Cuba. I'm planning to go back. I just applied. I'm getting a passport in a few weeks. So my father used to get haircuts, and I was always afraid. You know, I never got a haircut for a long time. For a long time, I looked like Shirley Temple. And my father came to a store once, and the guy says to him, so is that a boy or a girl? And he grabbed me by the ears, and he took me right to the barber shop. And they cut my hair like a boy. But I was scared. I thought they were going to cut my ears. Next. Like what happened with that kid. This really looks like me. I mean, I remember levitating. Remember those chairs, and they would put up board, and then the kid would sit on top of it? Remember that? You remember that? You're much too young for that. Next. Oh, that's Egypt, by the way. Next. Okay, this is the dark side of my life, and I already read a paper on that, so I don't have to. I'll just go next and next. We don't have to discuss it. Okay, that's my grandmother's house. So she lived in Old Havana. I remember that. I remember the smell. I remember that as if it was yesterday. It was amazing. Very old structure. And then the buses and the fumes, and it was just, how wonderful. Even though I had a nightmare, it was wonderful. Next. That's still my grandmother's house. The house that I lived in Cardenas was so humid that I remember poking holes in the walls, and my mother always coming after me and slapping me because I was ruining the house. But I'm sure you remember the walls were so humid that you could literally just poke holes in it. Next. And for those people that think that Cuba in the 50s, there weren't any street people, I remember a lot of street people. I remember a lot of people there. And like, this guy, I remember a lot of people in old Havana, especially, living in the streets and laying in the sidewalks. Next. And that's homage to my hero, Walker Evans. I'm sure you know the picture of the guy with the cigar and then the toothpick. That's homage to him. I love Walker Evans. And of course, Cuban cigars and all that kind of thing. We don't have to go through the details, but I remember my mother at one point, this is what's called la batea, to clean. And I remember at one point, I didn't know this, but she had a boyfriend. And I had no idea. And she would be singing, Yo tengo unos ojos negros, ¿quién me lo quieres comprar? And she would be singing that song and scrubbing. And little did I know at the time that she was singing to her boyfriend. And her boyfriend, as it turned out to be my stepfather with very dark eyes. And she would be singing to this guy. I had no idea. And she was married to my father. But I have a hunch now, after so many years later, that she knew there was something weird. Just like my grandmother knew there was something very weird. I remind me to show you the book. Oh, we still have 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes? That cool? Okay, let's go next. I want to show you the book. In Cardenas, there weren't any like taxis or anything. You took the carriage. So whenever we came from Havana in a bus or a train, I think it was a Tren de la Bahía, I'm not sure. From Casablanca, I think it went, to Cardenas, and then, no, to Matanzas, then we would take a bus from Matanzas City to Cardenas, and then you take the carriage, and there's nothing more beautiful than that. Isn't that? That's amazing. Let's go next. And then after my parents got a divorce, of course, pictures get torn apart, and I remember that, or you scratch them out, right? Next. And then Death of a Nation, in 1959, when the Castro regime took over. Next. And that represents that. Remember the Bay of Pigs? The picture of the Bay of Pigs? You've seen that. But, this was actually 50 years after that happened. So I took these toys, and I went to the beach, and I photographed these things. And thank God I got a good one. I think that's a pretty interesting picture. Next. And then the tank, the famous picture of Castro coming in with the tank, his big cigar, the bombs. When I lived in my grandmother's house, I remember hearing gunfire all the time. It was amazing, all the time. And I wasn't scared. When you're a kid, you're never so scared. And I remember bow, bow, all the time, constantly. It was a hell of a city. It was like Paris of the 30s. Havana in the 50s was really interesting. I mean, I wish I would have been like 22, 25, 30 in Havana in the 50s. So that was exciting. Gambling, sex, all that kind of stuff. Great. Let's go next. All right, so that's when we left Cuba, okay, in one of these planes. And you can't see it there, but the flash, luckily enough, sparked like a sunrise. And I remember arriving in Rancho Boyeros around 6 o'clock in the morning. The plane didn't take off till like 1 in the afternoon. And I remember the lady in the front said, oh my God, this is the last Cuban sunrise. I remember that like if it was late yesterday. And then another lady, go back. You went too fast. Another lady said, they say the American sun is different from ours. And what she meant was that it wasn't as bright. Cuban sun is really bright and beautiful. And then my last look of Havana, and I remember looking out the window and seeing Havana. Then I looked forward in my seat, and then when I looked back, a few minutes later, it was gone. And that's my last view of the city of Havana. Next. And then we arrived here. That's Miami International. And that's the Freedom Tower. I have a great show there. You're all welcome to go see it. It's there for another 10 years. It feels like 10 years. It opened since what? When did it open? Like November? November, last year. You know what? I mean, that's a long time ago. 3 months ago. That's a long time for a show. But anyway, it's up through like August. So go take a look. You'll see the pictures. And we went to this building the day after to, okay, more questions. I want to talk to you guys. Oh, I want to show you the book. Is that the last one? I think that's the last one. Oh, the last one. That's me when I arrived here in October 17, 1961. And I was wearing the same jacket. This is my grandmother. She saved my life. She's Spanish. She's actually Basque. So she never called herself Spanish. Era de País Vasco. You know, very proud. And that's my aunt. But she saved me because she found the blood in the bed sheets. And then she said, hay que sacar Eduardito de aquí. We got to take Eddie out of here. Because she knew my father was sick. So that's when they made something. They did something to get me out to another grandmother's house. But she saved my life. And when I came to the U.S., I visited my grandmother and my aunt that first night. Okay? And there's some excellent poetry in the book, so I encourage you to buy it. Maybe we could turn on the lights, and I want to show them the book. Look at this thing, how beautiful. It comes in a clamshell box. All right? You open up, and, whoops, it's supposed to have a ribbon. Hold on. The ribbon is very important. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, you open up. It's got a ribbon. You lift. Book comes out. Close the box. Look, oh, in the back is that last picture that you saw. Okay, the front. You open up. It has this beautiful blue, like Varadero, where I was conceived. And then that's Richard Blanco. Richard Blanco is a very important poet. He actually read the poems for Obama and stuff like that. He's not good. And then Ellen Bass, you know Ellen Bass, right? Good, you see I'm in good hands, folks. More of Ellen Bass. Okay, and who else? Tony Mendoza. You see how bad I am in names? I have to read it. Tony Mendoza wrote. Juan Martinez wrote. And then Dan Gottlieb at the end, but it's got a bunch of pictures. So, anyway, any questions before I leave you? Any questions about pictures? Come on, I couldn't have been that clear. We still have 10 minutes. Yeah.
Safe to say you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, taking pictures?
Yeah, sure. Sure, I can't spell. Yeah. Yeah, I like making pictures. Yeah, I've been doing it since 1972. It's my passion. It really is.
What do you think is about what was it about a particular image that made you want to photograph it for this book?
First of all, it had to work.
Looking for images.
It had to work photographically. You know, it's like a painting. You make a schmear, the schmear's got to be just right? So, oh, you like that word, the schmear, right?
I guess I better use that.
She's a painter. But it's got to work visually. It's got to work. And then for me, the memory was really important. Man, I tell you, I've never worked that mode before. That's why it took me 9 years. I've never worked that way before. Because, you know, I would get very emotional, really emotional. It was very difficult, yeah. But it's the image. Because if you can't read all the words and you don't have this clown up here telling you about the pictures, you look at pictures, the image has to work. It's a visual pleasure. It really is. It has to work. Yeah.
Why you discover picture is your passion?
Pictures instead of what?
Is your passion. Why?
Why?
Yes.
That's a real good question.
Thank you.
Because I love to stare. You see? And I can't stand here and look at you. and be like this for hours. Because she'll think I'm crazy. They'll call the cops, right? So if I whack a picture of you immediately and then run out of town, you're not going to complain, right? So actually the real answer is I like to amuse myself. I like to think that I'm better than the guy next door. You know, that you know, I'm more visually literate than the other guy. It's a lot of it, honestly, it's an ego satisfaction. It really is. I mean, if there's any artist here that says, no, it's not an ego satisfaction, bullshit. It's really, you know, you feel good, you know? You show in good institutions, you feel great, you know? Yeah.
As a photographer, how did you start? Like, a lot of them do with the quinceañeras and the weddings.
I started photographing ugly babies. I did. Honestly, to me, all the babies were ugly. And I didn't know it then. And as it turns out, it was because that wasn't my turf. Then I took a real good class in Miami-Dade South with a gentleman named Dave Reed. Oh, he's in Dave! Hello! He's watching me. All right. So, and so, you know, he taught me a lot about photography. Yeah, and the history and stuff. So that's all.
And then it evolved.
And then it just sort of developed. Sure. Yeah.
Is this process of looking at yourself through pictures, is that done by yourself, or did you share that with somebody else to see the reaction before?
No, I didn't share with anybody.
Before it went into.
I didn't share with that lady.
No, not with that lady.
I didn't share with anybody. No, this was completely private. It needed to be, because it was about me, and she still doesn't know. She still to this day. You guys know, she doesn't.
I know, but you can talk to your psychologist or your shrink.
Oh no, my shrink knows. Oh, my shrink knows more than I know.
No, but the picture-wise, picture-wise, sharing.
Yeah, you know, she's seen the book. Not the book. She's seen the book.
Before it went to.
Before it went to a publisher.
Okay,
oh, yeah,
that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Oh yeah.
So you shared it with somebody.
I shared it with my therapist. That's the only person she knows all the secrets about me.
And what did she say? What did how did she go about it?
Oh, she gave me a kiss.
Eh? How did she react to the pictures? What did she say?
She doesn't know much about the visual aspect, but she saw a beautiful book, right? And she gets into my head. She knows how to get into my head. So she got to my head. And through that, she understands some of the images. But she doesn't know image making the way we know image making.
Hi, Ed.
Hi.
My question is about your editing. So what was the editing for this book like? I'm assuming there's a lot of images that you didn't choose. So...
No, I'm really good. Everything that I shot is there.
Everything that I shot over 9 years. Right. So what was the editing process for this book like for you?
No, you just look like you edit. You look, you find a good one, you put it over here in this pile. There's a yes, a no, and a maybe pile. That's it. It's all very simple. I mean, it's all digital. It's all digital.
Yeah.
Then it's all digital work. Digital camera, everything's digital. One thing that I'm really glad of the way I work is that from day one, I started making drawings and paintings very early on, like in the early 70s. And then I started using black and white photography and so forth with Dave Reed, and I developed and evolved. Then I began using color film, analog. Now I'm doing all digital. I've evolved. I don't want to be a dinosaur. And not because that's a negative thing. You know, look at Ajay. He's my favorite photographer. He was the biggest dinosaur of all. But I just want to evolve with the times. And digital has been really good to me. You know, it's fast.
Yeah,
it's fast.
no, I know.
And with good cameras, I mean, go see that show at the Freedom Tower.
Yeah.
The prints are really beautiful.
Yeah, Fran and I are going to see it.
Yeah.
Eddie, so when you go to Cuba now, you're going to Cuba on a mission, or you're going to Cuba with your camera just to take tourist pictures?
He never takes
Tourist picture. What an insult.
What's
the matter with you?
Put them on a postcard.
Jesus Christ, get that out of the room. Tourist pictures. No, my therapist was telling me that.
Are you just going to go have some more sex?
No, I don't have sex anymore. Right.
No, take
No,
your
no,
camera
no.
and take tourist
My therapist
pictures.
was telling me that there's an architecture there, because I mean, everything of the 50s I've done. And look at this room. They're all books of Havana, right? All the beautiful buildings,
And that's what's still
the
there,
painting, and
just
that's still
from-
there. But there's an architecture called Bola architecture, of the architecture built after the Soviet Union, after 1959. So I'm interested in doing the architecture now. Yeah, yeah, because nobody's doing that. So somebody's got to record that. I'm really interested in doing what's called Bola architecture, which is like, you know, a Soviet kind of ugly, I don't know how to call it.
Where's that word come from?
Bola? Where does the word bola comes from? Like, it's a ball.
Okay.
They must have had the worst architects.
I'm sorry, what?
Because they did it in Dresden.
Because everything's the same. Yeah, because everything's the same, like a ball. Yeah.
Folks, we have time for one more question.
One more.
Or not.
Yeah.
So for like pointers from an experienced artist like yourself, I'm in Tony Chirino's black and white intro photography class.
Good for you.
So he told us to come and I am mesmerized and your frame and detail and it just boggles my mind how it makes me think, oh, maybe you were walking around with these little miniature figures, and
I love you.
I really do appreciate the subject in your composition and how it ties in with the background and how it's just blurred. And I see like the first image you showed us with your black and white photo.
Give me a hand.
Call me.
Hey, come on.
I'm a star. You're a star.
You see Tony, I have an A+.
Thank you. I know we have to take a selfie with you actually.
Oh, good.
But
Great. Thank you.
so ultimately, my question was to give what's the word? I'm all nervous now. Advice to young artists when we think of, like, I'm a photography major, and right now he's got us generating ideas of, okay, so take photos that resemble you and yourself, and I'm all about storytelling, and you definitely did that in your photos without words, and it compels me to want to shoot. Ooh, I'm gonna cry. Beautiful work that means a lot to me, and to show my story through like photos, and for it to come across through the public like us. I'm very, very, very honored to be able to sit here. But like, what ideas generate in your mind whenever you're walking out in the public, like in a relation to how you did your book, and you walked around and you said, there, that seems significant. That seems like it jogged my memory. And just to kind of like tell the story through that. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, honestly.
No, I understand. I don't know what I'm hearing either. My advice to you, aside from keep your eyes open and your mouth shut, it's shoot a lot, look at intelligent work, and grow old.
Right on.
I'm finished.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you. Thank you so much. I'd just like to say also to Eddie that he's been such a friend of Books and Books over the years, and not just for his literary contributions and his photography contributions, but his contributions to this city as well. He's a real treasure. Can we get another round of applause for him? I know you don't like that, but that's all right. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you watching online, give us a call. We'll get a book signed for you. The books are for sale behind the counter, and he'll sit right here and sign them for you. Stick around. We got live music. We got beer. We got wine. We got books. We got Eddie. What else could you ask for? Thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you. you.